Hi guys, welcome or welcome back to my channel. Welcome to another video. I haven't done a sit down video in quite a while now, so I'm really excited. And we have a lot of books to discuss because I'm going to be talking about all of the books that I've read so far this year, which is from January up till March. I have my reading journal here. Let me just bring out some stats for you guys. I could be wrong, but I think I've read about 13 books so far. So without further ado, let's just start with the books that I read in January. Yeah, sorry for the angle change, but I had to readjust you guys. But yeah, just before we start, I want to give a little bit of a context. So I was in a huge reading slump in January. And the reason for that is that I was trying to record this video of reading the Goodreads Choice Awards winners of 2024. And I just, for some reason, couldn't get into any of the winners in any of the categories. And it just put me in a huge reading slump to the point where I didn't even feel like buying anything else or buying a new book. It just felt like a waste of time and a waste of money. So I went back into my physical TBR or books that I've, started before but kind of soft DNF'd to get a little bit of light reading, and I picked up The Year of Magical Thinking by Joan Didion. This is a memoir by Joan Didion, obviously, about the year after her husband's sudden death and how she tries to or attempts to or grieves that loss, which was so sudden, and it just left her in a weird space where she had to grieve him but also was not able to process that fact because this is also the time when her daughter was on like life support and trying to get treatment done for her, and the entire 1 year of her life is documented over here. And like I said about soft DNFing, so I had actually picked up this book previously last year and I read around 20 pages and I had to soft DNF it at the time because this topic in general just puts me in a very anxious mood, in a very heavy mood about losing a loved one out of the blue. Like literally, they came back from the hospital meeting the daughter. They sat on the dining table. 1 minute he's fine, the other minute he's dead. And that just losing a family member like that, it just really scary. And that's why I soft DNF'd it the first time I picked it up. But this was like the shortest book I had at the time. So I picked it up again. I started reading it again and I did really enjoy. I don't know, I don't want to say that I enjoyed it or I didn't enjoy it because it's her life. It's probably the worst year of her life, and I just don't know how to put that into a review, if you know what I mean. But yeah, Joan Didion is an amazing writer. The way she has put down that feeling of not being able to grieve someone properly because you just cannot believe that the person is just gone until coming to realization that yes, that person is gone, and you just don't know how to process that much grief and the loss of losing someone so suddenly. All of those things, those feelings, which just are so incomprehensible even to a normal person just thinking about it. The way that she has written that down on paper is just really beautifully written, and I think for that I would definitely recommend this book just for her writing. And I think I might pick up more books by her in the future as well when I'm in a memoir mood, because she does write very well. That was the first one. Next, I have two books that were part of my last reading vlog about reading critically acclaimed books or like very well-known literary fiction books. So the first one that I read in that video was Martyr by Kaveh Akbar. I'm not gonna talk too much about this book because the previous video that I've uploaded, I have been talking about this book non-stop, quoting this book non-stop, and I would recommend this book to everyone. Everyone should experience Kaveh Akbar's writing at least once in their lives. And yeah, this was just a great book. I'll just give a little bit of a brief, but if you want to know more about this book, please go check out that video because I have explained that book in detail. I've given my reactions and my reviews and a lot of excerpts from the book because they were just so beautifully written. So this book follows an Iranian man who lost his mother quite early on when she was traveling via plane, and that plane got shot down by the U.S. government or U.S. Army, whatever. And then his father, and he had to shift to the U.S. where he grows up, and he grows up into becoming an addict who is very obsessed with the idea of martyrdom, about the idea of your death, about your life meaning something and not just being just a meaningless end of existence. And that is when he comes across an artist who is currently dying of cancer, but she has also put out an exhibition in the museum where she lets people come and sit with her and talk to her. The entire concept of the book, the characters of this book, the writing side of the book, everything about this book was just top notch, 5 star. And I constantly think about this book even now, and I think it's just, yeah, I mean, again, I'm blabbering about the book, but Kaveh Akbar is a talented writer. This book, this story is something that will probably move you, because it did move me. So yeah, that was a 5 star read for me. And then on the complete polar opposite end, I read the next book, which is Kairos by Journey Bag. This was the winner of the Booker Prize of last year, and I had heard great things about it. I had been wanting to pick it up for a very long time, and it just didn't do it for me. The writing style in this book, again, more details in the video, in the reading vlog, but I'll just give a little bit of overview. This book follows a woman who has just turned 19 and a man who is really old. I mean, I think his age not specifically mentioned in the book, but it does say that they have a 35-year age gap between them, and they get into a relationship. Also, this book is set in the time of Berlin in 1986. That is basically what I can tell you guys about this book. Like, even a blurb at the back by Zadie Smith says, "I loved this doomed romance." Just what it was. It was a doomed romance, and just this book did not sit right with me. I'm not saying this book was bad. I think it was very artistically done. The writing style, even the story, the characters, everything were very artistic and would look great like on cinema or something. And I think people who have this kind of a reading style or reading taste will definitely enjoy it a lot. I personally did not have this reading taste, so I did not enjoy it, and I DNF'd this book. And now I'm still counting it as, I think I'm okay. Maybe I read only 12 books. I don't know. Okay, I don't have the list in front of me. I just have my reading journal doodles in front of me. So that was January. It was a good start to the year, even though it was a bit of a reading slump. I did eventually get one 5-star read in. And then coming on to February, I read a total of 5 books this month, starting off with The Women by Kristen Hanna. So this book is the winner of the historical fiction category in the Goodreads Festival 2024. And this is the book that I started reading at the beginning of the year. But for some reason, I think it was my slump talking, but I just couldn't get into it, and I had to soft DNF it at the time. And I felt so guilty doing it because Kristen Hanna is one of my favorite authors. But yeah, anyways, I picked the book up again. I read the entire thing, and I absolutely loved it. Again, a Kristen Hanna hit for me, always. So this book basically follows our main character Frankie, who has enlisted as a nurse for the Vietnam War. But in this society at this time, her idea of getting into the army is just kind of shunned by the entire society. But still, she wants to do that. She wants to do that service, which her brother also did. So she's shipped out to Vietnam, and then obviously it's just blood and destruction and just a lot of graphic details of the horrific incidents and horrific things that happen out there in the battlefield. And that is what the first, I think, one third or so of the book was about. And that is the point where I DNF'd it, because after one point it felt a bit repetitive what stuff was happening out there, how people were dying and stuff. I mean, yes, it's really impactful, it's really bad, really sad, but after reading the same thing again and again, it gets a bit repetitive from a reader's point of view. So I had to put the book down then. But when I picked it up again, Frankie comes back to US, and then just the way society treats them, not even society, the way her family treats her, society treats her and other people like her, is just so weird. Like, just don't understand why that's happening. She's being mistreated, she's being abused, and it's just a horrible thing to come witness after you've witnessed such horrific incidents for the sake of your country. So yeah, I think that entire experience, that entire thing is just so well done. The ending of the book was, it brought me to tears, like always Kristen Hanna does, and it was a great book. Yeah, this might not have been a 5-star read for me, but it definitely was like a 4.5-star read for me. Next up, I was in a Greek mythology mood, so I picked up Hera by Jennifer Saint, another one of my favorite authors. She writes Greek mythology stories from the woman's point of view. So this book obviously follows Hera, the queen of the Greek gods, and as glamorous as that title sounds, this story is sad as hell. It is. It really is. So, to give you a little bit of context, if you don't know about Greek mythology, the 6 main gods were all brothers and sisters, and Zeus was kind of like the king of them all, who was also a really cruel person. Well, I don't want to say person, but like the way it's described, it's just really cruel. And he forced Hera into being his wife because he was honestly scared of her overthrowing him the same way that they all together had overthrown their father. Yeah, and along with this dynamic, there's a really big, I wouldn't say misconception, I'm not sure. I'm not a Greek mythology expert, but if you see anywhere where Hera is mentioned in regards to Greek mythology, you will always see that she is kind of like that jealous wife who, like the husband goes and has affair with other people, and then the wife, instead of blaming the husband or punishing the husband, ends up just punishing that poor child world, honestly, in some cases, that was attacked by Zeus, basically. Every single reference that is made to Hera is made to show her as this cruel, cold hearted person. And this book just really, I think, changed that perspective, because I think Hera is probably the most unlucky person in this world. I felt really, really bad reading this entire book, but at the same time, I was so interested about it because I love Greek mythology, and then reading about how the gods came into existence, how they came into power, how they created men literally just for their entertainment, how they wiped out men for their entertainment again, how they toyed with humans' feelings, their everything, the way they toyed with other gods, other minor gods, the way they used them. All things were very interesting. Hera's story was obviously very, very sad, but there are also at the same time parts where you're mad at Hera. You find her, you think that yeah, you're being very, very not empathetic to this person or this god. But yeah, I think overall it was a great experience. If you want to have a bit more information or have a bit more details about what the Greek mythology is about, like the core of Greek mythology, which are the gods, I think this is a great book for that, and I really enjoyed it. And because I really enjoyed that and I was still in the mood for Greek mythology, I think I made a mistake and I went straight into Stone Blind by Natalie Haynes. Now, this book is about Medusa. And if you guys know anything about Medusa, Medusa's story is very, very closely linked to Hera and Zeus and Poseidon and all the main Greek gods. So reading that and then reading this was not a good experience because there's no set storyline of Greek mythology, so there's a lot of differences in different references that people take. These two books were obviously taking references from two different Greek mythology sources, so the order of events or the order in which the gods were born were different. And I'm not saying that that was right, or this is right, this that was wrong, this is wrong. It's just that's the way Greek mythology is, and I feel like reading those two side by side or one after the other really highlighted that part more than the actual story for me, and kind of ruined the experience. But talking about the story in specific, which is what we're here to review, I really enjoyed it. I really did. Medusa's story again, just you just feel bad for people. You're reading a Greek mythology story, you're just gonna feel bad for people and really mad at other people. I think that's what the basic trend is. I'm not gonna give too much detail because I feel like everyone knows the story of Medusa, which is basically she was a normal mortal girl who kind of caught the eye of Poseidon, who wanted to then assault her, and then she ran into Athena's temple trying to get help from the goddess because she really looked forward to, really looked up to Athena as a goddess. But that did not save her. She ended up getting attacked by Poseidon, and Athena, instead of holding Poseidon to blame or not doing anything, if not helping her, ended up being very, very offended that this woman, this mortal person, brought a god to my doorstep and ended up doing what they did. And out of spite, she turns her into a gorgon, which is basically snakes for your head, and a stone sight, which is basically means that the minute she looks at any living creature, that person turns to stone. That's a really, really sad story, and the book doesn't just follow Medusa, it follows a bunch of other characters as well. And overall, it's a great book. The writing style is very good. You feel bad for the characters, which is, I think that's what Greek mythology is about. But yeah, I would suggest do not read two such closely linked Greek mythology books one after the other. I have learned from my mistake. But yeah, moving on, I then picked up The Henna Artist by Alka Joshi. I honestly did not know anything about this book. I just saw it on Amazon. I really liked the cover. It was an Indian author, so I picked it up, and honestly, it was a great experience. Like, I don't know how to describe this book, but yeah, our main character, she has kind of run away from her village after an abusive marriage. She shifted to Jaipur eventually, where she is a henna artist. She does henna designs for, if you guys don't know what henna is, it's this. Wow, I just thought about it that this designs on my hand. That's henna. But I think you guys already know that. Anyways, yeah, so she's a henna artist in Jaipur, and she does the henna of the elite noble woman, and she's trying to get a contract in with the palace as well, with the queen and the prince and everything. Basically, she's trying to work the society and become really, really successful, when suddenly one day, after almost like 13 years, her husband shows up at her door, and with him is a young girl. And it's just like, who the hell is she? And it turns out, after she ran away from her house in her village, her parents had another daughter, and that was her sister, who had come all the way to find her sister after their parents had sadly passed away. Yeah, her name is Radha. So she's obviously her entire life lived in a village, with the entire village knowing about the fact that her sister ran away. So obviously she was kind of known as the bad luck girl. Yeah, like she was targeted by society even before she could talk because of something that her sister did. Yeah, so this book just follows Lakshmi trying to make her way through society, but also facing a lot of challenges because of the people that she's working for, as well as because of her sister, or for her sister, trying to get her up to city life, trying to make her independent, make her confident at the same time, because they are poor and they're not of noble background, how to be hidden from wandering eyes, or how to be hidden from the negative sides of nobility and of fame and wealth and all of that stuff. And it's just a really great, well written story. I really enjoyed it. This is part of a trilogy actually, and was also Reese's book club pick. I think in 2020, I'm not sure. But yeah, I'm definitely going to read more of this series. I'm going to read more by the author. I really loved Alka Joshi's writing. Every character is very nuanced. Nothing was black and white. I think that's the best way to explain it, which is what is true in current society as well. And obviously in this society, oh, I didn't tell you, this is like set in 1950s. So it has that vintage vibe to it as well. And I really enjoyed it. I really, really enjoyed it. I would definitely recommend this to everyone if you want to read about that 1950s India generation. You know what? There was still kings, there was still nobility, wealthy people. Yeah, this is a great experience. And then lastly, in February, I read Yellow Face by R.F. Kuang. I wasn't sure I would like this or not because this book has been so popular, literally so popular everywhere. And I feel like immediately when a book gets really popular, I just don't feel like reading it. But I'm really happy I did, because this was a great read. Again, I don't want to talk too much about it because I feel like everyone already knows what this book is about. But yeah, we're following our main character, June Hayward, who is kind of acquaintance friends with another writer, Athena Liu, who's a Chinese American, and they both were in college together. They both debuted together, but Athena became very popular, like top A-list author, whereas June is still kind of like a struggling one. But still, they are still friends. They still keep in touch until suddenly one day when Athena and June are hanging out together and Athena just dies. They are at Athena's apartment at the time, and June ends up stealing her manuscript for her next book. She steals that manuscript, and it's basically a lot of research done and some excerpts written, and she ends up modifying that, tweaking that, turning that into a full length novel, and she ends up publishing it. Obviously, she gets a lot of fame. She is a great author, yes, she is, but her fame is derived from, well, plagiarism and stealing from someone who has died and betraying a friend and all that thing. So it's like a really gray book. Like, there's no wrong, there's no right. Well, obviously, there's a wrong and there's right, but it's just that moral line is very blurred in this entire book, and you just see her wrecking her life, not wrecking her life, but you just see her making mistakes after mistakes regarding her career. And it's just such an interesting read. You just want to know what happens next for June Hayward. How is she going to try and come out of the situation, and how she, instead of coming out of it, pushes herself even deeper into the pit. So yeah, it was a great read. I really enjoyed it. And again, R.F. Kuang's writing is just so nice because the entire book was very satirical, like it was very funny. Like, it's such a big thing, it's such a huge thing, plagiarism and stealing something from someone who has died in front of your eyes. But I feel like the entire vibe of the book was very light-hearted and very funny, and just, you as a reader just want to know, oh, what happens next? Oh, okay. Oh, like, that was very bad expressions, but that is basically what I felt this book was about. I really enjoyed it so much, to the point where now, starting off with March, the first book I read was Babel by R.F. Kuang. And this book was hands down one of my favorite books of this year. One, not the favorite, one. This book was again very popular over all platforms, and that is why I never wanted to pick it up. Also, I was kind of intimidated because everyone described this as dark academia, and the last time I tried dark academia, I just couldn't get into it. But I'm so glad I did, because yes, this is dark academia, but I just enjoyed this so much. This book basically follows a bunch of children from different countries. So our main character is Chinese, who has been brought to England by a professor to study at the Royal Institute of Translation at the Oxford University, which is also known as Babel. So we're basically following the colonial rule period, but in this book we also have a magic system where silver work is basically magic, and for that silver work we need translations, we need other languages, and not just knowing languages, but living in those languages, which basically means bringing up kids from those particular countries, bringing them onto England to this particular university, and basically utilizing that knowledge that they have because of their culture. That is what the book is basically about, but it really, really highlights the cruelty of colonial rule, how it was just a manipulative plan to extract wealth for not even the whole of England or whole of London, but only the elite noble class, while everybody else was just scum for them. And in this book in particular, our main character is Chinese, so we are obviously focusing more on the impact of colonialism in China and how the whole poppy wars brought into action, about how, a poppy being such a dangerous drug to the point where England and London themselves had banned it for their public, but they are forcing that onto China because they just want silver in return and just earn more and be more powerful, and just treating them as scum, literally like dirt. And so I feel like just both of those aspects, the magical realism part of the books, as well as the actual being true to the historical context and the historical colonialism and the impacts of that and all of that, was just so well done. I really enjoyed it. It was a great book. I read it quite slowly, not because I was not able to read it, but I just wanted to savor it more. And I really enjoyed it. And I'm so excited to read her next book, which is Catabasis, that comes out in, I think, October or August in India. And I just cannot wait to read that. I know I'm going to really enjoy that as well. After reading that, I was kind of again in a fantasy mood, so I picked up Mistborn Era 2 by Brandon Sanderson. I read the first two books, which is The Alloy Flaw and Shadows of Self. So, if you guys don't know, Mistborn is a series which is like a series of series. So, we had Mistborn Era 1, which was a trilogy and set in probably medieval times, and then Mistborn Era 2 is like centuries later, where it's like the Wild West time. You have guns and you have electricity, and just now cars have started coming into existence, but we still have that magic system, and obviously we have some tweaks in those magic system because over those years there has been a lot of in like breeding across, not species, what do you call that, cultures? Yeah, I don't know. Okay, so yeah, obviously it's a bit different, but we still have references to the main characters in Miss Bond Era 1, because now those characters are like gods or like really prominent figures now. But yeah, that's what like the overall vibe of this series is about. But talking about the plot itself, we are following two main characters, Vaxilium and Wayne. So Vaxilium, he is of noble birth, but he does not like being of noble birth. So he becomes a lawman, which is basically not a police, but like someone who helps maintain the law and bring justice and stuff like that. So he's a lawman and he works with Wayne, and he works in the like the outskirts or the Wild West types areas. He doesn't like being in the actual main city because he's a nobleman over there. But then after the death of a family member, he has to come back, do his familial duties. And once he comes there, and then just a bunch of stuff happens, and I feel like there are a lot of mystery thriller aspects of that in the book, and I really enjoyed it. Obviously, yeah, the first book was not my favorite, but I just definitely enjoyed it. We got introduced to our four main characters, which is obviously Vaxilium, Wayne, and then we have two sisters. I forgot their names. It doesn't matter. Yeah. So we got introduced to them. We got introduced to this world, this new generation of this world. And I really enjoyed that aspect, but as a whole, it wasn't a favorite. But the second book was, I liked it more because in this we have a bit more closer connection to Mistborn Era 1, a little more, like a bit more closer connection to the plot lines of the first series, or like the concepts and certain nuances of the magical system from the first series. And I really enjoyed it. The characters as well, obviously they've grown on me. Wayne is such a funny character. Every time there was like a Wayne POV in this book, I was laughing. Like, I'm not even kidding, I'm not even exaggerating. Every time Wayne was talking, and I don't even mean like when he was like giving his dialogue, like he's talking, but like he's just inner monologue as well, because we're in his POV, so we can hear that. And that inner monologue too was just so funny. Whenever Wayne's chapter would start, I would just start laughing. And yeah, I think, yeah, the characters are amazing. The plot, I feel like, is picking up now and being more in touch with the first series plot. I'm finding it more interesting as well. There are two more books in the series. I have them and I will definitely be reading them again. Okay, so those were the physical books that I've read so far. I then switched onto my Kindle because I sometimes become a Kindle girly. Sometimes. Only sometimes. And when I do that, I just feel like reading more and more on my Kindle. So I started off by reading The Last Word by Taylor Adams. This book I had started reading again sometime last year, but I just couldn't get into it. I got into it, but I just wasn't in the mood for a thriller. So I put it down and I picked it up again. I am not sure how to explain this book because yes, it was scary. There were parts where I was actually physically scared for the character. The mystery elements, thriller elements, everything was very well done. You were always on the edge of your seat, but also the big main twist of the story, I guessed that quite early on. Quite early on, I guessed that, to the point where I guessed it and I was like, I'm just like 20-30% into the book. I'm pretty sure that's not that's not what actually happens. So I discarded that thought, continued reading it. I was also enjoying it. Like I said, I was scared, I was thrilled. There was a lot of those elements in the book. And then at the end, when that part is revealed, I'm like, well, it was revealed in a very nice way. I'm not saying that it was done very well, but I just felt like I already knew that, or I had already guessed that. So that kind of put a damper on my experience of reading the book. But I enjoyed it. I definitely did enjoy it. I think I will read more by Taylor Adams in the future because it was a great book. Yeah, about the book, actually, I didn't tell you guys anything about the book. So in this book, we're following our main character who is, we don't know what she's grieving, but she's grieving about something, and she just wants to cut off herself from the entire world. So she shifts out to this house on the beach. She's basically house sitting for a woman, and it's like the perfect setup for her. She's just sitting there reading her books. And while she's at this house, she ends up reading one book which is just atrocious. Like, it's really, really bad. And she just gets really mad for wasting that time. And she ends up giving a 1-star review for that book on Amazon. And then the author replies back and he's like, take down that review. And she's like, I'm not going to. You should have written a better book if you want to do that. And then eventually she starts getting stalked by said author at her house. Not her house, but the house, which is like in the middle of nowhere, where she's house sitting for some random person. But yeah, the plot sounds really interesting. The book also was very interesting, very intriguing, very scary as well. But like I said, I guessed the ending. So maybe I'm a bit too smart. Maybe. I'm not saying anything. Then the last book that I've read so far is Magnolia Parks by Jessa Hastings. So usually I don't read a lot of romance, but I do pick up a romance when I'm not in the mood for literally anything else. So I ended up picking up this book. This book has been so popular for such a long time, but every single review that I've read or seen of this book, people describe it as Gossip Girl in London, which is very, very true. And also that either you will hate this book or you will love this book, because it's just about a toxic relationship. And that just scared me a bit. That's why I never picked it up, but I did eventually, and I stand by that review. I really do. So we're basically following Magnolia Parks, who is part of the high society of England, of London, and she dated BJ Ballantyne. Basically, BJ Ballantyne and Magnolia Parks are two people who love each other so much. Like, their lives are so entangled with each other's, but they just keep hurting each other as well. I know it sounds really, really stupid. It did to me at first too. But when I read it, it was so entertaining. Also, I just really liked Magnolia as a character too. I don't know why. I hated Valentine. I really did. A lot of stuff, I cannot really get into it because that's what it is. It's a toxic relationship. When I was reading the book, when I was like 50% through the book, I felt like I'm not enjoying it that much. Like, this is stupid. I don't like the characters. I don't like any of the things that they're doing. But then I kept picking the book again and again just to see what's happening next, and I realized maybe I like this book. I mean, I don't like the character. I don't like BJ Valentine. I don't. Maybe I will eventually down the road, but I don't like him right now. And in this book, we're also following another main character. Not following, but Magnolia also ends up getting into a relationship with another man called Tom, and I feel like Tom is just so good, perfect for Magnolia. And it's kind of like a love triangle. No, actually, it's like a square, love square. Like, a lot of characters involved. A lot of them like or love Magnolia, and Magnolia does not know who she loves. And sorry guys, I had to go somewhere. But yeah, I think I've wrapped up all of my feelings and all of my ratings for Magnolia Parks as well. It's a really super popular romance series with a super toxic couple whose lives are completely entangled, entwined with each other, and somehow yours gets to as a reader. And yeah, I enjoyed it, and I have actually continued the series, and I'm on the second book right now. But yeah, more about that in the next reading wrap up. So yeah, those are all the books that I've read so far. These are all the books that I've read so far this year in 2025. I'm definitely hoping to read much more. Please let me know if you want to read any of these books, or if you've already read any of them, let me know. And I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'm gonna see you guys again very, very soon. Bye bye.